On today's show, a lake of trophies turns out to be a place of trash, too. The birds showed us. This story should change the way every Minnesotan fishes.
Nice pair of sunglasses.
We tag along as workers pull unwanted fish out of a Minnesota lake. And we experience a beautiful day in the life at a Minnesota Wildlife Refuge.
Minnesota Bound, presented by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems.
Hey everybody, Laura and I welcome you to Minnesota Bound.
Up first, a story that starts with a phone call.
Yeah, we took a call last summer from the manager of the National Wildlife Refuge up around Mille Lacs Lake.
Walt Ford talked about a discovery researchers made on the lake. This is a story we all need to see.
Big fish dreams. Minnesota's Mille Lacs Lake sits full of them. Lots of anglers absolutely love this lake. Rubbish, says this crew. These workers want you to see fishing differently. And maybe, just maybe, understand that every story, every fish tale has two sides.
Yeah, we needed a different technique this time. Hopefully this will work.
Walt Ford manages that little white dot out there on the horizon, the Mille Lacs Lake National Wild Refuge, made up of two tiny Mille Lacs Lake islands, protected back in 1915 by U.S. President Woodrow Wilson.
It's the smallest refuge of the entire refuge system. Total size is less than 1 acre.
The crew heads for Father Hennepin Island first. Workers don't exactly get excited for this job. Can't blame them.
It's going to be a dirty, messy job. At the end of the day, we're all going to want to shower. I can guarantee that.
The smell is overpowering.
8 federal and tribal workers clean up the feces-covered nests of double-crested cormorants. A black bird people seem to love to hate.
They're an easy bird to dislike just because they're so different than the normal bird. They're all black, they're ungainly looking, they got that hooked bill, so they're just not an attractive bird.
Anglers also accuse these diving birds of feeding on too many of our game fish, especially young walleyes.
This is sentenced to serve.
Yeah, 1 hour of this and they'll know food again, you know?
The team scours the bleached rock islands.
Another strap.
Stinky, dirty work by the forkload. But do not, for a single second, blame the birds.
Bungee cord and a whole bunch of a stringer and a whole bunch of line. Looks like there's some fishing lures in there. Beer cup. Shot glass.
Nice pair of sunglasses. There's a knife.
Turns out, our trash has become the birds' unwanted treasure.
The double-crested cormorant are a native species, and they're very good at collecting anything that they find in the water for nesting materials.
The birds dive and gather materials off the bottom of the lake. It appears
another pair of sunglasses.
We, the people, gave them way too many choices.
The typical nest, and then when you break it apart, you can see all the garbage.
What aren't we finding?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, lots.
Phone chargers, spatulas, USB, cords.
A lot of plastic silverware.
Monofilament line, lures.
Stuff you wouldn't expect to find.
If they can carry it, it's here.
We got a whole kitchen.
We're certainly doing a service to our lake, collecting all the trash that the fishermen are leaving out there. The problem is, much of the materials they've collected are a danger to them.
And other birds too.
A slow, miserable death, to be certain.
The monofilament, it just ensnarls them. You get twisted around their neck, their wing, their legs. Yeah, it's a miserable death.
Researchers first discovered all the garbage during bird counts. Now they must clean up every summer.
There's a lot of trash. A lot more than I expected.
Monofilament with a bottom bouncer.
It's unbelievable the quantity of monofilament out there. I say miles and miles, and I don't think my estimation is off.
I didn't realize how big a problem the monofilament was until today. It's insane.
If these images and this story do not turn your stomach, well, they should. We have an obligation to protect the waters we ply.
That's crazy.
Think of that the next time litter hits the lake you say you like. After all, Love on the Rocks these days looks like this.
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's like the whole mess is like 80% trash.
I hope that this will encourage fishermen, anglers to be more careful. We all appreciate the rich bounty that this lake provides, and in order for us to continue to enjoy it for years and years to come, we need to be better stewards.
We love seeing people protect the great outdoors. Share what you're doing to help our great state. You can tag your conservation photos on Instagram and tag us at MNBound.TV.
Coming up next, workers go carp crazy on a busy Minnesota lake.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut, Minnesota DNR, Star Bank, and by Alumacraft Boats.
Up next, Ron Shera heads to a Twin Cities lake where workers use new technology to try to control invasive species.
It's early dawn in Carver County, and the war, yes, the war, on carp is about to start again. On this day, the battlefield is Parley Lake, and there's no shortage of the enemy. But in other lakes, there have been some victories.
Wasserman's actually really a great example where leading into this work, it was one of the lakes that had the highest carp concentrations.
This campaign to eradicate or at least control carp populations is a project within the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District with its 13 interconnected lakes, including Lake Minnetonka. Carp don't go easy. It's a battle. Oh, don't we know? The European carp, introduced into the U.S. in 1831, reached Minnesota almost 140 years ago. And we've been trying to eradicate the invasive fish ever since, with no real victories.
The issue with carp is, much like any other invasive species, at very high densities, they start to cause impairments to the overall ecological integrity. In addition, carp also have a water quality concern.
Now there's a new battle cry, Carp Solutions.
A University of Minnesota startup company that is very proficient with a technique called box netting. Box netting is a technique where a net is deployed, carp are baited into an area. It's a baiting procedure that over time they get trained to kind of come to these locations. And then today we've actually triggered those nets to pen in the carp.
Physically trapping and removing carp is an old weapon, but with new strategies.
So they're really trying to help refine when to kind of trip these nets, because they're baited sites, so carp come in at specific times to feed in these sites, and it's helping to refine when those times are across the lake.
Most amazing is their sheer abundance. Each netted carp is checked for a tag to determine if the fish had been captured before.
You got maybe 100 fish out so far. Yeah. None of those were tagged.
A tagged carp? That's another ploy in the carp war.
The brains of the operation is the control box, so that's taking energy from the generator, converting it into voltage, amperage that we can control. We want to stun the fish, not kill them, not tickle them. The purpose of doing this methodology is to get a good idea of how many carp are in the system and how dense they are. A fish that's this size is likely 1 to 2 years old. A single carp can live over 50 years, and a single female can lay up to over 1 million eggs.
The stunned carp will be outfitted with a device called a pit tag.
Then the pit tag gets implanted just under the scales and into the body cavity of the fish.
And then that fish would be ready to go. We will scan that pit tag, and then we put them back in the water so we're able to track their movements.
Overall, the goal is to use that information to be better at managing common carp. We know that we're never going to get rid of them, like extirpate them from the lake, but we can manage them down to a level that's going to end up being beneficial for the lake.
It's a goal to reach, but also far from done. So this fishy question remains. Will it ever be won?
Still ahead, we go back in time as Minnesotans celebrate the dove hunting opener. But first, the day in the life of the Refuge. Next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by North Dakota Tourism.
Minnesota's state parks are keeping pretty busy these days, but we found another wild destination that's staying quiet. It's time to spend a day in the life at the Rice Lake National Wildlife Refuge.
It's nice to be out here and the fog is just lifting. We are at Rice Lake National Wildlife Refuge. We are 18,200 acres. The namesake lake, Rice Lake, is 3,600 acres. It's a natural wild rice lake. The primary purpose for which the refuge was established was waterfowl. You can hear the waterfowl making noises when they fly over, the trumpeter swans, the Canada geese.
They're just communicating with each other. You know, they're happy, letting each other know where they are.
It's just a beautiful place, especially on a fall morning like we have now. Rice Lake was a famous lake. It is the record holder for the largest amount of waterfowl ever recorded in one location at one time in the state of Minnesota. In 1994, approximately the third week of October, there was over 1 million ducks counted on it in one day. For many, many years, waterfowl hunters were out here, but prior to that, the Native Americans were out here harvesting rice for centuries.
That's my dad. That's my brother.
The rice that we've had this year is the best that I remember. It's just been a really phenomenal crop. We've got about 7 miles of walking trails out here. We've got 13 miles of auto tour. I just want people to come and visit and stop, look, and listen.
You know, we hear that a lot. Oh, I didn't even know you were here. So come out and enjoy it. It's a fun place to be.
We are all about stories, and that's why we want you to listen to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. We dive into our favorite tales every week, and you can listen anywhere you find podcasts.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Shields, Otter Tail County, Minnesota, Bent Creek Golf Club, Eden Prairie, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
This next story takes us back to the year 2009.
The year you had your very first dove hunt.
Yeah, back in a time when dove hunting was new to all of us.
Yeah, there's 5 out there by those trees right where we were going to set up.
Sometimes the littlest things become quite a big deal.
Right over the oak tree, cutting across them.
Exactly why Mark Ittle and Brian Rocher find themselves out on McLeod County Road.
Our main goal is to scout, just find numbers of birds here.
Those birds, mourning doves. Here's the thing about Minnesota dove hunters. Most of us are, well, rookies.
We're still in Minnesota, still learning how to hunt doves, where to find them.
Not long ago, the Minnesota legislature agreed to a new dove hunting season. It's quickly caught on with early fall hunters.
So do you think we should set together, or do you want to set up 2 different spots?
Now, hunting these buggers isn't exactly complex.
Should we set up some deeks and stuff?
The game starts with a few small decoys.
Yeah, if you don't have a tree, a dead tree with, bare branches on it, if you can find a brush pile or something, you can tear off a branch and stick it up out in the field and put some decoys on it.
After setup, which takes just a couple of minutes, dove hunting becomes a game of wait and hopefully see.
You get kind of waves of doves. Like right now, it's kind of a lull, and then all of a sudden you'll get 50 of them that come in, but in little bunches of 5, 6, 10, 2 or 3.
Well, we're on a feeding field here, and we're just waiting for them to come through.
A feeding field with plenty of stuff doves like to eat.
Same stuff as always. Yeah. This is their main food source right there.
I think some of it's that wild, I think it's proso millet, and then some of it's just that small, short foxtail.
Now, if you pick a good spot where birds travel,
see them already, they're coming in to feed.
Good things tend to happen.
Here comes one, right to the right.
Well, just the speed, you see how acrobatic they are, just darting and dodging.
You see that thing cut? A good night for us is if you go out and we shoot, 15, 20, 25 birds in an hour and a half, hour. It's great. Take it, Bill.
Sorry, Bill.
Game hog.
Thing is, with dove hunts, seems like you're always reloading.
Bring a lot of shells. Yeah, if you find the doves, bring a lot of shells because the action it's fun. It's really fun.
You can say that again.
Minnesotans, I think we're blessed finally to have a dove season. We're slowly getting it dialed in here. I wish the season was longer, but we take what we can get right now. 2 or 3 weeks, and when the weather starts getting colder, our birds are gone.
One coming out front.
More and more hunters will find that it's a fun sport, it's a pretty social event, and you'll see more and more people getting out and hunting doves in Minnesota.
If not, that just means more birds for us. Well, at least for Brian and Mark.
I should have let you shoot that. I feel so bad.
One of my favorite ways to kick off the fall season.
Sure is, and challenging because they fly so fast.
Yes, they do.
Well, that about does it for us. Be sure to join us back here next week.
In the meantime, don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433.